Got some questions about the Barton government. The Barton government from 1901 to 1904.
Yep.
Can I ask those to you?
I'm not that familiar with the Barton
I'm only
government,
joking, don't worry.
Senator.
Let's talk about population. Now, is it true that over the next 6 years, just over the 6 year period from 2022-23 to 27-28, is it true that net overseas migration is expected to be in excess of 2 million people?
So, Senator, are you referring to the flow or the stock?
The overall net overseas migration.
So when we forecast net overseas migration, Senator, we usually refer to it as the flow. It's the number of people coming in and the number of people going out of the country.
Yeah, so the net figure. So is it true that the expectation is that there'll be 2 million people from 22-23 to 27-28?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
that's correct.
Yeah.
So over 2 million. How much over 2 million?
Senator Nick Latimer, Assistant Secretary for the Centre for Population. My numbers here are 2,027,000.
What's the number?
2,027,000.
Okay. How does that compare to prior years?
So one of the things that's driving that is a rebound post-COVID. So it would, looking at prior years probably isn't an accurate comparison.
Right.
So, for example, in 22-23, we're getting a strong rebound due to not having migration during the COVID period.
But isn't it true that if you go back to prior budgets and the prior budget projections, that since this government was elected, that the projections have almost always been exceeded?
I think we've dealt with that in previous estimates with advice from Treasury.
Sorry, I didn't understand that answer.
Well, I think we have covered this issue in previous examination of budget estimates, including the fact that upward revision post-COVID was underestimated in the forecasts.
Am I right in saying that in the 22-23 budget back from March 2022-2023, that the projection was that there was to be 180,000 people on a net basis, and it ended up being quite a lot higher?
So, Senator, I don't have the numbers from that budget to me at hand. I will comment that at the time borders had opened, and it was at that time predicting migrant behaviour, particularly arrivals, was quite difficult. And so the arrivals, there were some push and pull factors. Obviously, borders had opened. Yeah. There were other policies overseas, particularly countries like China, that told its students if you want to study abroad, you need to go abroad. So there were some other push factors there, but understanding behaviours post-COVID and when borders opened up was actually a really difficult matter for the forecasters at the time to deal with.
And that's not just the Australian context as well. That's that's international. We saw the UK
Canada
as well, and Canada. Also, those countries that have net migration.
But effectively, we're still looking at over 250,000 people coming in 25-26. Is that right?
That's the current forecast.
Yeah, 255 in 25-26. Yes,
that's right, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay. When did you finalise this population statement from 2024?
Senator, that was prepared over late last year and finalised in December.
Was it always intended to be released on the Friday before Christmas?
That was the date that we'd been planning for.
That was the date?
Yep.
And have you done any modelling on the impact of having a large migration program, so 2 million people coming into the country over a few years, and how that's impacted housing?
Senator, that's not work that the Centre for Population has done, but I would clarify that's not a migration program. It also includes the flow of Australians and New Zealanders in and out of the country.
But you would accept, I imagine, that there is a connection between migration and housing. More people need more houses, right?
So, short-term shocks can have an impact. So when there's a short-term change, because I think the Secretary's talked about this in the previous estimates as well, about having short-term change. The housing market can't adjust as quick, so having certainty long-term is important. But yeah.
So, Minister, I know you're interested in these things. Have you asked, or do you know whether the Treasurer, Mr Chalmers, has asked the Treasury to do some modelling on the connection between inbound migration levels going up and how that impacts Australian housing?
Well, clearly Treasury has been doing work on population and on migration, so you've got the report there, but also the work that's done in budgets and MyEFOs. It's important to say net overseas migration has fallen for 3 consecutive quarters in December 2023 and March and June 2024. And this is because some of the work that's been done into making sure we are addressing some of those pressures we're now seeing come through. And we're also focused on housing and increasing housing supply, and the Treasurer obviously has been very active in that space as well.
So is the answer to the question that you have commissioned analysis?
My answer to the question is that the Treasurer is fully across migration, net overseas migration and housing policy.
Okay, so what is the piece of work that exists in the Treasury that shows the impact of having 1 million people come into the country in the last 2 years and only building 160,000 houses? Where does that exist, that analysis? Who's got that? You got it here today?
No, we don't have that analysis.
Does it exist?
We haven't done that. We haven't undertaken that analysis.
Oh, well, that's bad, isn't it? Don't you think that's bad, Minister?
No. I think
most people would look at it and say, well, the amount of people you have in the country impacts how many houses you need.
I think the people of Australia want a government that's focused on increasing the supply of housing, which we are doing, and taking responsible steps to ensure that our migration numbers are managed appropriately, and we are doing both of those things.
Well, I think sadly you and I both know that's not the case.
Yes, no, I don't accept that view from you.
Well, you're not building as many houses as the last government.
You, as a government, did not build any houses. That what you use there is the number of housing under construction. What we are doing, what we are doing is actively supporting the development of housing, which we are, and in homelessness, in social, in affordable. With working with the states and territories, we're pulling every single lever we have available to us to deliver more housing in this country, and the only policy you have is to cut it. And so don't sit in here and complain about lack of housing when your only policy is to abolish the Housing Australia Future Fund.
We have lots of policies.
Which is actually the policy that's ramping up investment in housing in this country.
How many houses does there have?
Well, we can go through that at the relevant section. Don't worry, we're all prepared for you,
Sounds
Senator
like
Bragg.
obfuscation to me, but anyway.
No, not at all. We've got a special set of numbers for you.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Minister. We'll go to Senator